Hey everybody, how's it going? Let's talk about your home recording studio. Today let's talk about transients, about transient response. Now I realize that I've been using this word pretty frequently in my videos so far, and I never really explained what it means. So let's explore a little bit today about what a transient is and what transient response in a microphone really means. So a transient, when we're talking about audio, when we're talking about audio engineering, is a very short burst of a lot of energy, a lot of, we could call it volume, or something that's really loud for a really short amount of time. Now, if you ask mechanical engineers or, radar technicians or something, the transient means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I mean, heck, even the word transient, when describing a person, means a person that doesn't stay in one place for very long, kind of a vagrant or a hobo or something. And I guess there's a little bit of relation there to what it means in audio. It's a sound that doesn't stay around very long. It's just this little aberration. Well, I say little, but it's this brief aberration of a very loud noise that doesn't stick around for very long. And in future episodes, I'll get into, this kind of ties a little bit into compression and dealing with transients. Transients can be good because they can add what we call punch, making something sound punchy. That differential in volume between something's highest amount of amplitude, and as it fades away, you can that's good when you want things to sound impactful. But they can also make it very difficult when you're trying to mix, when you're trying to keep your mix loud but not clipping. So what I figured I would do here is use as an illustration the instrument that, as far as I know, has one of the produces some of the largest transients that I can really think of, and that is a snare drum. Because if you think of how a snare drum sounds, you whack it with a stick, it's very loud for a very short amount of time. So I figured what I would do is take the snare drum here and put a few different microphones on it. A few different types of microphones. I've got a dynamic microphone, I got a small diaphragm condenser, a large diaphragm condenser. Oh heck, I might put a large diaphragm dynamic on it. And actually, the microphone on my camera is actually what kind of got me thinking about this in the first place, looking as I'm trying to sync up my audio. And let's take a look at a few of these and see if we can learn anything. Okay, I'm set up here with a snare drum, and I got four different microphones, well, several different microphones all around the snare drum. I have an Audix D6, which is a large diaphragm dynamic. I've got a Shure SM81, which is a small diaphragm condenser. I've got a Shure SM57, which is a regular dynamic mic. I guess you call it a small diaphragm dynamic. I have an Avitone CV12, which is a large diaphragm condenser. I'm also wearing my lavalier mic, which is a Shure, what is it, a WL183, I believe. And then, of course, I've got my camera here, which is actually considerably farther away, so there's going to be some time delay once we start looking at this in Reaper. But I tell you what, I'm just going to whack the snare drum a few times, record it, and then let's look at the waveforms of how each of these different microphones pick up such a sharp transient sound and how they all respond to it. All right, let's see how it looks. Now, the thing that really got me thinking about this in the first place was when I sync my audio and video, either my lapel mic here or originally I was using my SM81 as a boom microphone over my head. And so I use a hand clap, and that produces a nice sharp kind of transient, kind of like you see here. You look at these waveforms, and they're very easily identifiable little punctuations in your timeline. And so between the microphone on my camera and whichever microphone I'm using for my commentary, a simple hand clap it produces a sharp spike like that. It makes it really easy to kind of align those two files in my video editor. So I was looking at the difference between my SM81 and the microphone on my camera. Let's look at those two next to each other. I'm going to scoot my camera up here. Let's zoom in on these so they're all nice and huge. Get it to where I can fit about 2 on a screen. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. All right, so when we're zoomed out like this, and we're looking at these snare drum hits, they don't really look all that different. But let's start zooming way in, and let's take a look at what the actual waveform looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna assume. Okay, one thing to notice is that the microphone on the camera, the Canon G7X here, it's a stereo microphone, so we've got 2 waveforms in one track here. My SM81, it's just one microphone, so we just got 1 waveform. So let's pick a spot here where everything is dead silent. Rewind just a little bit and we'll scoot that to where that diaphragm just starts to move. We'll scoot this one. Okay, that's as far as I can go there. Get my cursor right about there, scoot him to right about there, and let's scroll over so you can see what I see. Okay, here we go. So what you really see is we go from dead silence, and then the camera diaphragm just kind of starts to get moving, and it takes a little while to kind of get warmed up, and then it really starts moving. And then since the camera has a limiter built into it, you can see that these waveforms just flatten out at the top and the bottom of each waveform. And that's the camera's limiter kicking into action. That's probably not all that uncommon on something like a camera to where it wants to keep quiet things still audible, but it wants to keep loud things from getting too loud. And it's also probably a bit of a self-preservation thing. But you can see the difference here between how long it takes that camera microphone diaphragm to get moving to finally start peaking compared to how long it takes the SM81 to just immediately react to how loud that snare drum was. And you know, we're not even really seeing the peaks here on the camera microphone because it's been limited. So I don't know. I thought that's pretty interesting. We can look and see like the SM57. You know, it reacts pretty darn quickly as well. It's not nearly as you know, it didn't peak quite as high. Again, these are normalized, so it's kind of hard to compare peaks. Then my Aventone CV12. Now it's at the top here. I have a feeling either I'm suffering from one of two things here. Either this is some extreme DC offset, which is something that I don't really understand all that well myself, but I'll study up on it, and I'll probably do a video on DC offset at some point. That's kind of when you start seeing your waveforms being shifted in one direction or the other. You know, you can kind of zoom out on this and really get an idea of how lopsided this waveform is. It's all above the 0 mark and not below. But it's either that or there's something wrong with the diaphragm to where it's not vibrating in this downward direction freely. Or maybe that's just the nature of how this microphone works. I don't know. I got to study up on that, and I'm kind of curious to know what the heck happened here, because you look at this close in, and that's obviously that's not a natural shape. That's just weird. And then, of course, there's my lavalier mic. Lavalier. Whatever. And it's just kind of all over the place. When excited by the exact same sound, yeah, I don't know what to make of this. There are so many weird ups and downs and back and forth. That just looks odd. I don't really know what to say about that. One thing to note on the lavalier mic here is that I run it through a compressor, and so when I was whacking on the snare drum there, the compressor was really clamping down on those really loud transients. So you see the difference between the highest peak and as the snare drum rings and starts to fade. You know, that's not nearly as dramatic of a differential as something like, you know, the large diaphragm condenser, where, you know, that initial spike, that initial transient, it's way up here, and it you know, falls really quickly. And the same thing with let's look at the SM81 right here. You know, same kind of thing. It spikes and you know, hits its peak so quickly, and then very quickly also fades off. And I'm sorry, this keeps snapping to zooming to where my little headshot camera picture keeps covering things up here. But the compressed signal, and that's just kind of the nature of compression. You can see how much fatter that kind of looks. The differential between the loudest and the softest. Hey, that's what a compressor does. We'll cover compression in a future video, something I'm actually really looking forward to covering. All right, enough talking about it. Hey, let's listen to these, and let's see what these different ones sound like. Let's just give them a quick play, and we'll see what they sound like. Whoops, I zoomed out way too far. Okay, first let's listen to the Audix D6. Really? Not bad. Kind of got a marching band kind of sound to it. Not a snare sound I would really reach for. It's a little too mid-scoop. That snare would disappear in a mix in a hurry. Let's listen to the SM81. Curious about this one. Yeah, I hear more tone from the snare. Still kind of tight sounding. All right. Kind of like that. All right, let's listen to the SM57. Okay, tight. All right, yeah, you know, that's probably not going to win any awards for excitement, but yeah, you know, it was kind of tight, a little punchy, not so bad. Let's listen to the Aventone, which is the large diaphragm condenser. Yeah, it's all right. Okay, yeah, you know, even I can hear just a tiny bit of distortion in it, but a little bit more ring, you know, it kind of picked up a little bit more of that. So, all right, let's listen to the camera microphone, and I promise you, this is awful. Oh, so distorted. Yeah, you can hear that distortion in there, and you can hear the limiter kind of kicking on and then releasing. As the limiter kicks on, the background noise goes away. And then as the limiter releases, you hear the background noise kind of swell back up. And yeah, that's... All right, now let's listen to the my lavalier mic with the compressor on it. Oh my. Oh wow. I mean, that's awful, but I mean, that's so trashy. Really, in the right context, that might actually sound kind of cool in a mix. I don't know. That would be a special effect, that's for sure. I did not expect that one. So, all right. So we have learned what a transient is. We've learned something, hopefully learned a little something about the transient response of a microphone, how quickly it reacts to something really brief and really loud. And we've heard some of the effects. We've heard kind of what microphones with different transient responses might sound like, and you know, with that last example of the compressor on it, that really takes the difference between the loudest transient and kind of squashes that, and then lets the rest of the body through. Kind of hear what that sounds like as well. So hopefully you've learned a little bit during this. I've had fun. I hope you've had at least a little bit of fun, and I think I'm gonna hang it up for now, and I'll talk to you guys next time.